Marvel Studios' WandaVision sparked a level of discussion that other TV shows can only dream about. With its frequent use of foreshadowing and curious teases about what might be coming in the MCU, the series was chock full of lines that may be more important than you realized. WandaVision is Marvel Studios' biggest mystery story yet, and there's not really a close second to it. For weeks, viewers were deliberately left in the dark about what was actually going on in this inexplicable sitcom send-up. The last time we saw Wanda Maximoff, she was chilling with Clint Barton at Tony Stark's funeral, reminiscing about the past and looking forward to the future. Come 2021, and she's living in TV land married to a miraculously revived Vision with zero explanation. The series' debut episode, filmed before a live studio audience, plays most of its mid-50s TV show gimmick completely straight, with Vision and Wanda doing their best to hide the fact that they're not exactly an ordinary couple. There's the occasional double entendre line about things like how dense Vision is for Marvel fans to chuckle at, but few clues as to what's actually going on, until you go back for a second viewing. While the Visions are planning their dinner party for Vision's boss and his wife, they have a phone call to explain the stakes of the evening. This dinner needs to go well, Vision says, so Wanda assures him that it will.
Wanda, darling.
Vision, sweetheart.
Listen, about tonight.
Don't worry, dear. I have everything under control.
After seeing the story once, this line means way more than it did the first time. 9 minutes into the series, and Wanda's already nodding at the series' real scenario in a very literal way.
Oh, don't worry, darling. I have everything under control.
It's unclear why Wanda and Vision are so bad at making dinner in the first episode of WandaVision. It kind of feels like cooking dinner together is the one thing we've seen them do together as a couple, beyond beating up bad guys and other Avengers. Nevertheless, Wanda and Vision's potential inability to cook a simple meal for Vision's boss propels the drama of the sitcom story. Except for all the psychic powers and reality warping, it's the kind of thing that would have been right at home in an episode of I Love Lucy. But this isn't I Love Lucy, it's the Marvel Universe, a world of advanced science and powerful magic. At one point in the episode, Vision's boss seems to sense the sorcery at work holding the world together around him.
From what I've seen here tonight, you can barely keep it together. I mean, look around. There's all this chaos going on in your household.
Little did he know how right that was. Chaos was going on in way more places than just the household. By the end of the series, we know that chaos was taking control of the whole dang town.
This is chaos magic, Wanda. And that makes you the Scarlet Witch.
One of the weird things about WandaVision is how much the tone of the early episodes clash with the Wanda Maximoff Marvel fans have come to know. This is a woman who was introduced as a villainous, vengeful human lab experiment. First, she was an orphan, and then she lost her brother, and then she accidentally killed a lot of innocent people. The best thing she had going for her was a robot boyfriend, and, well, we all know how that turned out. Between Avengers Age of Ultron and Avengers Endgame, Wanda developed into a vengeful woman so animated by wrath that she almost ended the Thanos threat single-handedly. So to see her suddenly trying to fit in at a suburban party of homemakers in the second episode of WandaVision was puzzling, to say the least. One day, she's trying to rip apart an alien warlord to save the entire universe. The next thing we know, her big mission is trying to please Dottie. It just doesn't make a lot of sense.
I actually don't know what I'm doing here. I'm starting to feel that way myself.
By this point in the series, more than a couple things have happened that have served to shake up Wanda, being creepily off-format or out of place in her fabricated sitcom world. Even as early as the second episode, her faith in this fake reality is starting to fray. Speaking of Dottie,
And I'm irritated.
Dottie is introduced in episode 2 as a high-maintenance local busybody who inexplicably has it out for Wanda. In the early going of WandaVision, when Wanda just wants to fit in Westview, Dottie serves as a kind of antagonist to that goal, making Wanda feel like she's less than the other residents, like she doesn't belong. From Wanda's point of view, this bias might have something to do with her mysteriously metal husband. But of course, as we later learn, Dottie has a perfectly natural reason for not liking Wanda.
But I assure you, I don't mean anyone any harm. I don't believe you.
As we later learn, Wanda is at this exact moment holding Dottie hostage as a prisoner in her own mind, separated from her children and alienated from herself. It's frankly evil from Dottie's perspective. It might be 7 more episodes before the people of Westview are freed, but lines like this one, where their real feelings break through Wanda's illusion, go to show that they were fighting for their freedom the whole time. Wanda's twin children, Billy and Tommy, are one of the few aspects of Wanda's hex world that seem to not be totally of her own making. While it's certainly possible that Wanda generated the 2 children in the same way that she conjured up a revived version of her husband, there are hints that the kids may have been implanted in her world by an unknown outside force. Hints like her consistent inability to control them with her magic.
Why won't you do what I want?
Even Agatha seems to notice that the kids have an independent streak about them.
Kids. Can't control them. No matter how hard you try.
Most things in Wanda's hex are subject to her influence, even Vision, who should really know better. But when Wanda becomes spontaneously pregnant with the twins in the second episode, she seems like she might be as surprised as anyone else.
It's just kind of taken us by surprise. Just kind of suddenly, quite suddenly, wasn't it? I mean, practically overnight.
In the comics, Wanda's twins were initially thought to have been her own creation, but it was later revealed that their souls were shards of the demon Mephisto, who eventually came back to reclaim them. Mephisto is so entwined with the creation of Billy and Tommy that many fans were convinced WandaVision was building up to his arrival.
Unleash hell, demon spawn!
That didn't happen in the series, but it doesn't mean that the story of Wanda, Billy, and Tommy is anywhere near over. By the time the curtain closes on WandaVision, we still don't know where they came from, and we don't know where they went. As Billy says in the beginning of WandaVision's 6th episode, All New Halloween Spectacular, Halloween is a magical holiday all about family, friends, and the thrill of getting to be someone else for a day. Of course, Wanda has been taking that idea and running with it for a good long while by the time Halloween rolls around. She's been enjoying the thrill of being someone else every day for weeks now, and she's taken an entire town of people along for the ride. At this point in the series, Wanda isn't entirely aware of what she's doing, but she knows enough to recognize that there are some things she doesn't want to hear. Don't bring up Ultron to her for one thing. It's just not a good idea. During the Halloween episode, Wanda gets reacquainted with what she believes to be her lost twin brother Pietro, back from the dead after getting fatally ventilated during the big fight against Ultron at Sokovia. But their memories don't quite sync up, and Wanda notices. When she comments on the discrepancies in one of his stories, Pietro is quick to shut her down, saying,
"You probably suppressed a lot of the trauma."
That line's referring to a whole lot more than just this Halloween story. Whether he knew he was doing it or not, with that comment, fake Pietro was pointing out the entire nature of Wanda's hex, a way for her to suppress and hide from the trauma of her past. There's a really weird reference in the Halloween episode that goes many layers deep, and considering all the other little references that are threaded throughout WandaVision, it's hard to see it as unintentional. During the trick-or-treating sequence, Pietro is doing his Uncle Pietro thing with Billy and Tommy, and they hatch a plan to maximize their candy acquisition. Considering all three of these boys have superpowers, it's not really fair, but it is an exciting idea, or in Tommy's words, kick-ass.
Yeah, kick ass.
I feel the need.
Force me. Ow!
Kick-ass.
To follow the show at this point, you probably need to have seen at minimum a half dozen Marvel Studios movies, one of the later Fox X-Men movies, at least one episode of Malcolm in the Middle, and a completely different comic book movie, 2010's Kick-Ass, based on the comic book by Mark Millar and John Romita Jr. Who appeared in that movie? Oh, just Aaron Taylor Johnson and Evan Peters, who played off each other side by side as the characters Kick-Ass and Ass-Kicker 10 years before they played Pietro and Peter Maximoff in the MCU and X-Men. Your head hurt yet? Okay, technically, Evan Peters' character didn't suit up to become Ass-Kicker until the second movie, in which his role was recast with another actor, much in the same way that Pietro gets recast in WandaVision. Bet your head hurts now. We're not even sure what the purpose of this reference was, beyond pointing out how weirdly these two actors' careers intertwined. Also, Kick-Ass was more than 10 years ago. That's kind of an ass-kicking thing to realize all by itself. It's an interesting time for the Marvel Cinematic Universe post-Endgame. For years, fans knew that we were heading toward a major confrontation with Big Daddy Thanos. At the start of Phase 4, the possibilities feel wide open, but the series is still definitely already building toward something. And that something seems to involve the Skrulls, outer space, and probably Captain Marvel. After Monica and Jimmy get kicked out of the Sword base camp by Director Hayward, Monica takes him to meet with a team of Sword agents that aren't loyal to Hayward or his agenda. They're greeted by a new character named Major Goodner, who greets Monica warmly. Monica says that her mother Maria would appreciate this group of Sword agents' loyalty, to which Goodner replies with something a little puzzling.
She's not the only one we're loyal to, Captain.
There's likely more going on here than we realize. We know that Skrulls are operating on Earth. One of them reveals herself at the end of the series' mid-credit scene. We know that Nick Fury is up to something with them, and it looks like something big. Maria Rambeau also obviously had a relationship with the Skrulls. Whether that means these agents are loyal to the Skrulls or Skrulls themselves is something the series doesn't answer, but it does feel like something to keep an eye on. For some viewers, Agatha's big mic drop line at the end of episode 8, where she calls Wanda the Scarlet Witch, was one of the biggest forehead slappers on the series, an on-the-nose touch that evoked the trope of the titular line guy.
Ah, boy. I'm just so tired of all these Star Wars.
But although Marvel fans have been referring to the character of Scarlet Witch since before Avengers Age of Ultron even came out, technically she's never been referred to by that name. Ever. The closest we ever got was Tony Stark calling her a witch, which was kind of just Tony being Tony.
That little witch is messing with your mind.
This fact got some attention in WandaVision in Episode 5, when SWORD Director Hayward is grilling Agent Jimmy Woo about Wanda's history.
Does Maximoff have an alias?
No, sir.
No funny nickname?
Not a one.
As Woo emphasizes, Wanda never gave herself a silly superhero name. That's also kind of just a Tony Stark thing. Some WandaVision fans were surprised to see Agatha Harkness dealt with by the end of WandaVision, or that she was a villain who needed defeating at all. In the comics that she comes from, Agatha has always been more of an unorthodox mentor to the heroes, sometimes an antagonist, but not really a full-on villain. That's not the case in WandaVision. She killed Sparky for Pete's sake. But it is intriguing that Agatha spends her last moments with Wanda referring to the threats that she believes are coming.
You have no idea what you've unleashed. You're gonna need me.
If I do, I know where to find you.
Wait.
Considering all the hints that something greater may be out there on the MCU's horizon, we wouldn't be surprised if Wanda ends up making a trip back to Westview to get some help from Agatha. Could she end up becoming a Loki-style frenemy in the future? Only time will tell. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Looper videos about the Marvel Cinematic Universe are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.